At this point, I'd like to welcome Justin Zeeby, Vanessa Menzone, Cynthia Ettinger, and Tim Robbins of the Acting
Thanks very much for having us up here, inviting us into your community. We're very proud and honored to be here. We've had the great opportunity. Wait a second. We've had the great opportunity over the last few years to be able to tour throughout the United States with our adaptation of 1984, the Orwell book. And we've been in 40 states in the United States so far with that. And we've been able to meet so many different communities all across the country. And Justin has been on tour with that. Cynthia Ettinger is working now on a project that we're all very much looking forward to. She's addressing racism in her new project. It is called, the working title of it is I Am Not a Racist. And Vanessa Menzone is a tremendously valuable member of our company that runs our education initiative and has, in the past few years, made it a very vital and important part of who we are as an organization. I'm very, honored to be here. I will say though that, if I was in AA, that would have been a very difficult dinner to eat. But since I am not, I shall say skål. The Actors Gang started in, there's various varying, because we were all so fucked up at the time. None of us can really decide when actually it started. Some of us think it was 1981, some of us think it was 1982. So we're either 27 years old or 26 years old this year. We have been, because of the confusion, we've been celebrating our 25th anniversary for the last 3 years. We were young, we were in college, we just came out of UCLA, we did a production, our first production was of the Alfred Jarry play Ubu Wa, which the very first word spoken in an Actors Gang play was said by Ubu the king, who squatted over his wife's face as he said, "Piss shit." And we never turned back. We were young, a lot of us were, most of us were interested in punk rock. We were much more interested in slam dancing and mosh pits than guys and dolls. So we had a kind of aesthetic that we wanted to bring to the stage. We were excited, involved young people. Reagan had just been elected. We felt we had to raise questions and bring themes to the stage that no one else was doing. And we did it in an aggressive and energetic way. Our first production was a big success because we decided to perform it at midnight. And so what we started to discover very early on from the very start was that we could find new audiences. We didn't, because of the venue and because of the time, we wound up having these incredibly young and vital audiences that really responded to the kind of theater we wanted to do. We were, however, at the time also a little bit undisciplined. And I remember one of the rules of Ubu was to get this character called the Ubuist kicked out of the theater by the actors in time so that he could get to the 7-Eleven by 1:30 to buy beer for the cast. And,
traditional values.
Yes. Well, we were trying to tap into the long tradition of gypsies and theater making, but what we came to understand was that we kind of lacked a structure and a discipline, and that was given to us. We were very lucky to be able to study in 1984. Four of us from the Actors Gang took a 3-month workshop with George Bigot from the Théâtre du Soleil, and he was the lead actor at the time in the Shakespeare's that they were touring in Los Angeles at the time for the Olympic Arts Festival in 1984. And he stayed behind and ran this workshop at Stages Theatre in Hollywood. And the four of us took that, and we never turned back, because he introduced us to, first of all, the Commedia dell'arte, and most importantly, the truth that masks demand from you as an actor. And there was something I had never approached in my work. It was something that scared the hell out of me. I was a working actor at the time in Hollywood. I was already doing movies and television. I remember my back went out because I was so terrified by these new lessons. But I stayed with it because I saw the truth. I saw, even though I would get kicked off stage every time I tried to enter, and George was very, very demanding. Cynthia worked with him on The Seagull, and she can tell you this. He's a very specific and incredibly a man of great integrity regarding art, and very demanding in terms of what you give to the audience. I remember a few of his talks after these workshops. One of them in particular stuck with me forever, which was the idea that an audience that comes into your theater, you can never assume that they came with any kind of luxury. That you can't assume that any of your audience hasn't spent their last $15 or $20 to see your play. And in fact, they had to walk here to get here because they couldn't afford the car fare. That's what you have to invest in each one of your audience members. And I remember at the time thinking, that is fucking right, man. That is exactly what's missing in theater. Is this, that when you go to see this kind of elitist theater where you feel either you're being talked down to, or that you are just part of this kind of magical, expensive show that you're lucky enough to spend $90 to get into. I started realizing my roots in New York, and George kind of just lit a light for me of what theater is about and why it's important with theater to make it available to as many people as is possible. And so one of the mandates of the Actors Gang from that point on became, how do we bring theater to people that can't afford it? How do we create a theater that is interested in telling the stories of the people that don't have, and not the stories of the elite, not the stories of the privileged? And how do we figure out a way to tell that story and do it in an entertaining way so that we can not only raise questions but entertain? And so he set us on this path that we were forever indebted to. And interestingly enough, and how it relates to being invited here tonight, and how it relates to the Prize of Hope, is somehow it all comes back to the Commedia dell'arte. And now this is a very strange thing, because if you consider it, this is an art form from 500 years ago in Italy. And so why is that vital? Why is that something that we still, every Sunday night, address and try to figure out? As a company, we get together on Sunday nights and we work on Commedia. And what is it what is it about that story? And as I've grown up and gotten older, I've realized this story is the same story throughout the world. That there are companies in Bali, there are companies in Indonesia, other parts of Indonesia, there are companies in South America, there are theater forms in India, in shadow puppetry. They're all telling the same story. And what is that story?